I don't care if you're on the right, you're a liberal today. There's one more thing about jiu-jitsu that makes it so special.
Oh yeah, what's that? It's Judo? The Shintaro Higashi Show is sponsored by Judo TV, your premier destination for live and on-demand judo coverage. Never miss a throw. Higashi brand. Train hard, live strong, wear Higashi brand. Hakuin AI. Hakuin AI helps you measure, predict, and solve customer churn. Visit Hakuin AI and start your free churn audit today.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Shintaro Higashi Show with David Kim. What's up, David?
How you doing?
Good, very good. I had a long weekend. I was in the Dakotas, North Dakota, South Dakota.
So do you see any bison?
You know, we were driving through the Dakotas, and it was just all open fields. It was kind of nuts. I don't know if you've ever been out to a place like that, but you almost get like reverse claustrophobia.
It's too open.
It's just too open. It's kind of weird.
No trees.
It was no trees, and then, you're driving through, and there's a mirage coming off the highway. You ever see those?
Yeah.
Bizarre. It feels like you're about to drive into a puddle. It's a real thing, man. First and foremost, thank you to the guys who hosted me. Seriously. North Dakota, right? Fargo, Red River Judo Club, Steven and JD, they took me around. They hosted me. They're amazing guys. And then they drove me down to Budokan, Dakota Budokan in South Dakota, where I met a very, very nice gentleman. And he was great. And he hosted me, and it was really lovely. Thank you very much, guys.
That's awesome. So you were where is in North Dakota, where you were, this is where Red Zone is located? Oh, Red River?
Red River Judo.
Yeah. I got
in
Felipe
Fargo.
mixed up.
Yeah.
But Red River Judo in Fargo.
Yep.
Okay. So
It was Brad. Brad was his name from South Dakota.
Got it.
Brad. Good dude, yeah. I was trying to remember that.
Right. So yeah, tell us a little bit about, now, were both of the seminars that you did similar material, or did you do different material?
Usually I do mostly right versus right.
Mm-hmm.
And I got into Fargo, and Steve is the owner of the dojo, and JD's his right-hand guy. They were there for the seminar, and they were going to drive me down to South Dakota and take the seminar down there. So I wanted to make sure both gyms had very, very different itineraries. And what's more different than right versus right versus left, the Kenkaiotsu. Aiotsu is right versus right, left versus left. Kenkaiotsu is righty versus left, lefty versus right. So different configurations, two completely different strategies.
Right.
So I made sure those guys got the very best.
Yeah.
They
Well,
got
they're
like
obviously
a
friends,
full-blown...
I guess, right? So they
Yeah,
can
yeah,
join
they're friends, yeah.
They can do the Vulcan mind meld afterwards, right?
Yes. So we did that. That was really, really fun. And, a lot of the times I go to these gyms and I ask, like, all right, who's lefty, who's righty? I let them drill for a little bit to kind of see some commonalities where I could give them the best differentiated product for a seminar. Because you don't want to go in there like, this is what I do. No one does it. Not interesting. I've been to seminars like that before too,
We all have, yes.
Yes, we all have. So, sometimes, majority of the time, not a lot of lefties in the room, but when I do these seminars in the middle of nowhere, I get a message later on from the coach who hosted me and says, everyone's starting to do lefty stuff now.
After you left?
Yeah. After I left. And I've had this experience multiple times before, because righties going with righties all the time. They switch lefty, and a lot of these guys aren't getting like deep instruction. They're not deep into judo, like
Right.
10 years of doing this stuff. Couple of years, couple months. There's all these beginner intermediates who could still switch because it's not that deep into the actual sport.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden they switch and left, and they have immediate return because they're not used to fighting people with the opposite side.
Right.
It's like taking like a 3-stripe white belt in jiu-jitsu and say, all right, you're going to only lead left leg from now on, and you knee cut. And now you got purple and blue belts who've never encountered that before, who are going to get their guards past in 2 seconds.
Going the other way?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly, because your usual De La Hiva game is not going to work because the wrong side leg is out front.
Right.
And obviously, if you're a high-level purple or brown belt, you're going to be able to adapt to that. But majority of beginners and intermediates cannot. So I've had seminars where I'm showing right versus left, and this is my joke. Half of you guys are going to have to identify as lefties today. I don't care if you're on the right, you're a liberal today.
Right.
And people love that joke out in the Dakotas. I mean, people love that joke everywhere.
Right.
Are you lefty? Yeah, you're on the left.
Yeah.
You're on the right today.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, yeah. We're all gonna throw each other.
we're all gonna work together.
That's right. That's a great sentiment.
Be a unified room.
So what was so aside from the positional aspect of it, was it
Yeah.
purely, sort of gaming that position, or did you cover any other ground on that right versus right?
So right versus lefty, we
Okay.
did a lot of like putting that first hand on and what winning position looks like for the lapel side battle and then the sleeve side battle. And then once those two things are established, what the shoulders are doing, that's the third piece of it. Right? So now we know exactly what the upper body can be doing, whether you engage in the lapel hand side or the sleeve hand side, whether you win the lapel hand, lose the sleeve hand, but win the shoulder thing, right? So there's many, many iterations of this, went over all of them, and then gave them tools to kind of cycle through. And then we talked about angling your body properly, how to set up those angles by feints, things like this. And then you tie it back to the sleeve hand and the lapel hand. So it's like upper body, angles, upper body, angles. And then it's based on footwork. So I kind of guided them through the footwork and things like that. They have a great foundation, these guys, because they've been doing judo for quite a while now. So these guys were able to pick it up very, very fast. And then you add in, here are some techniques that I do based on this sort of infrastructure, this gripping positional thing, faking and then angling off and footwork. And then I enter inside Tatoshi and go Uchimata. Or I enter inside Tatoshi and then go for Ouchi from there.
Got
Right?
it.
And then I show them a few and then they try doing some of that. And then I'm adding a little bit more sort of a complex thing of like, all right, pressure. How do you pressure forward without getting turned on or thrown? Right? So you have to win these positions, pressure forward, release, and then take them out to this direction. So now you have footwork, angling, hand work, hand positioning, pressure forward, and then releasing back. And now all of a sudden, all right, guys, you have techniques that you already do. A quarter of the room does jiu-jitsu at a high level, and it's usually like high-level black belts in BJJ that come to these things. Okay, this is what it would look like if you're using sort of this structure. If you're a jiu-jitsu player, you're going to fake guard pull here. You're going to fake the shot here, pressure forward, and gain position on this arm.
So it
Right?
sounds like it's
These
a
kind
lot
of things.
It sounds like so it sort of sounds like you're progressing through teaching them cues, right? Like what are your winning cues, your losing
Yes.
cues,
Yeah.
right? Like this is positionally,
Yes.
if you have this, you know you're winning. If you're not, opposite. And
Yeah.
then I guess going beyond that and creating mismatches that fit your own, either the techniques
Yep.
you're showing them or the techniques they already have, and sort of
Exactly.
putting that all together, right?
Yeah, and then I'll fix some mistakes too that are common in the room. So we were doing all this stuff, for instance, like right hand on the lapel, kenketsu, right versus left, looking for that sleeve, then gaining this lapel hand position, back to that sleeve, and then we're entering for a technique, and a lot of the guys are going ochi, but then flaring their sleeve hand elbow up. So it's like, I saw that, one too many times, said, okay, guys, bring it in. Something I'm seeing here. When you're going for that crossbody Ouchigari, you want to tuck this elbow back and engage your lats because you're much stronger this way,
Yeah.
And then they do that, but then their right hand is kind of floating around. It's like, no. If you have this arm pulling, you want to be pushing, kind of like a bow and arrow, right? You have the anchoring, and then you're pulling the string, and then there's opposing forces. That's what you want to create on the guy's face. Check this out. And I mush the guy that I'm drilling with,
They must have loved that.
And then so it's kind of like that. But the beauty of my seminars, you're doing the whole time. So these guys are not sitting there listening to me talk for 45 minutes. I'm explaining little bits and pieces of it for 2 to 3 minute increments. They're doing it for 3 to 5 minutes. Doing it for 2 to 3 minutes, teaching for 2 and 3. They're doing it for 3 to 5 minutes. So even if they can't recall any of the things that I've said that are very specific, how to game this sleeve. Okay, there's 2 ways. Coming from the top, coming from underneath. These are the minute details that I use with my fingers, etc., right? Not letting the person re-grab because there's 3 different reactions that can be had.
Right.
No one's going to remember any of those details.
Right.
Right? They can go back to my YouTube or purchase a video on higashibrand.com, but just the fact that after I taught it, they were there doing that thing very specific for 3 to 5 minutes in almost a constraints-led approach.
Oh, how dare you? How dare you?
Yeah.
You hippie.
So hippie, such a hippie. Well, they get 2 hours of concentrated work this, work that, put these two together. This is the drill now.
Yeah.
They're gonna get so much out of it.
And their body will probably remember a little bit. Like they're going to remember being in
100%.
those
Yeah.
situations and maybe not even think about it too much. They'll just know,
Yeah.
I don't want to be here, or I'm in a good spot, right?
Yeah, it's a game changer. It's a game changer, and it's an experience. And you know, when I'm in the room for the seminar, no one gets hurt because, guess what? You're not allowed to throw most of the time.
Right.
You're not doing throws, guys. We're doing entries. We're doing contextual stuff. And every now and then, the teacher will give me an example, like, "Hey, can you please teach these things?"
Right.
And it's just a tomonage. And then people have to do the tomonage. And then it's a little bit risky, but then I always add the third person. I always put safeguards in, all these different things that I feel like no other seminarian does.
Right.
Is that the word? Seminarian?
Yeah, I think so.
Last year I did inverted gear
Yeah.
in Pennsylvania. I'm going actually this coming weekend. And they were like, can we do foot sweeps? Nelson Puentes, who owns Inverted Gear Academy, Inverted Gear, the jiu-jitsu gi with the panda.
Yeah. I have
He was like,
many of them.
I want to do, And
My totem animal.
he's like, I want to do foot sweeps. And I was like, okay. And we just did foot sweeps the whole time. Foot sweep drills and things that they can do on their own. And, you know, I've seen their Instagram and them hitting it live in competition. So, you know.
They want to be cool.
I had a little bit of impact, I think. You know, yeah.
So on the so that's the right versus left.
Yep.
And that was at the Dakota Budokan, right?
Yep.
In Sioux Falls.
Yep.
And so at the Red River, the right versus right, how did that material differ from? I mean, obviously it's a completely different alignment,
different strategy.
but
Very similar.
Yeah, similar,
Yep.
but just different alignment of the grips, right?
But the time constraints are a little bit different. So
I see.
I usually don't do this, but because I like these guys a lot, I flew in on Friday and did a Friday evening seminar for no-gi.
You dirty bastard.
They got double the value, really,
Right,
because
right.
I usually never do this.
Yeah,
you
right.
know, usually I say, "Hey, my rate
must
is
like these guys.
$4,000." Yeah, I was like, usually it's $4,000 for one session. You know, 2 to 3 hours. But these guys were really kind and all this stuff, so I said, "All right, we'll do a Friday night no-gi, and then Saturday morning I did kids, which I usually don't, and then the second half was all adults." Right. So that's why it looked a little bit different than my usual thing, but a lot of drills, you know, and I showed them, you know, every dojo you ever go to sort of have very similar pain points.
Yeah.
Especially judo. You have
Interesting.
4 or 5 guys sitting on the sidelines who came to watch the seminar because they can't do the seminar because they just blew out their knee.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, always. And it's very sad. Right?
Yeah.
And then even the people on the mat, I can't really do these things because I tore my ACL, 8 months ago. I dislocated my shoulder.
God.
And then you talk to the owners and they're like, we really can't get past X number of students because people keep getting injured. The retention rate's terrible. People come in and get hurt. I don't know what it is. Maybe these guys are soft, and so the question is like, how do you do any of this stuff safely? Is one of the key questions that I get across the entire country when I travel to do these seminars. Yeah. So a big part of my teaching this seminars is like, hey, these are the ways to drill. The beginner class, which is an hour long, no one should ever get slammed in that class. When you're learning a technique, you're trying the technique on someone that's live, that's also trying to take you down. It's very frustrating because first and foremost, none of this stuff works at a beginner level.
Yeah.
Right? Beginner randori, the most dangerous thing on the planet. Yeah. Beginner versus advanced person, beginner will never be able to throw the advanced person with that takedown that they just learned.
Right.
And then that one time the advanced guy throws that guy relatively hard, you're gone. You're done. You're not going to do it anymore. Right? And then the worst is intermediate do randori together because they're allowed to, and then one of them blows out their knee.
Yeah.
So how do you get the most out of your time teaching, doing, getting in shape? How do you reap the benefits of judo with reduced amount of risk? These are the exercises. Okay, right versus right. Here we go. This is gaining position, and now we're going to pressure our opponent forward, and then we're going to try to push them out of bounds
Yeah.
without the risk of them turning, dropping, and getting thrown. This is how you do it, you know? All right, let's try it. No one throw, no one go hard, and then I'll publicly out the people who are doing it too hard. Hey, man, relax. Don't go so hard. Every now and then, you're not supposed to be throwing, but someone will, boom, someone will slam somebody. Be like, dude, that's not what we're doing right now, you know? Right? And then they'll be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Sensei," you know. And then
Just got excited.
yeah, and you know what? When you do one or two of these things, for instance, like, all right, guys, we're gonna circle, cut the sleeve, and then we're gonna drive them out of bounds or whatever it is. There's always after 2 or 3 minutes they revert to their usual default, and they're going a little bit too hard, or they're entering Osoto. And the danger is, you know, someone's running inside trip into somebody.
Yeah.
And they're on your time,
Yeah.
and then you see sort of the intensity increasing in the room, and you know what? You just got to stop that.
Yeah.
You know, you got to call them out. Hey, all right, we're going to bring it back. We're going to drill again. The goal is not to throw someone here.
Yeah.
The goal is developing a certain skill set. I'm teaching you these drills, you know,
Right.
and then I tell the instructor, like, these are the drills that you can do. You could fill a class that's an hour like this, and it's a constant low steady state cardio exercise.
Right.
It's kind of like jiu-jitsu.
Oh, no.
We want to make judo more like BJJ,
Yeah.
where the risk is much more reduced, the intensity is reduced, and the pain is reduced. Therefore, it'll grow.
Right. Right.
You know, and then jiu-jitsu guys are there just to kind of highlight reel their classmates, so to speak.
You mean at the seminar?
At the
What do you
seminar, a quarter of these people who come to these things, maybe even a third, are jiu-jitsu practitioners.
And so what do you mean they're there to highlight reel their buddies? Like, are they the ones?
They just want to, yeah, they
like
just want
armbar
to
guys.
stand out in the room. I mean, they're good at jiu-jitsu a lot of the times,
Yeah.
but now they want, like, I want to delve into the world of slamming people, you know?
Oh, you mean highlight their friends back
Yeah.
at the jiu-jitsu club? Like, yeah, I get it.
Yes,
They're jiu-jitsu
highlight reel them.
friends.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or
no,
at
why else would you do
IBJJF,
it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
you
no.
too. You took a lesson.
Yeah,
You
yes,
went to a
100%.
competition.
I took a few.
And you skied. Yeah, the guy with Tomonage.
Yeah, it's
Now
still one
you'll
of the
forever
highlights
have
of
that.
my jiu-jitsu career. Yeah, that was great.
I mean,
wish
if
I'd
you
won the
sent me a
match.
video of you passing someone's guard, I'm like, okay, you know.
Yeah,
But you launching that guy,
yeah.
universally, anybody in the world could look at that and be like, wow. Right?
No, I was happy. I was pretty happy. So now, when we talk about the North and South Dakota,
Yeah.
were these big boys? You have a lot of big boys coming in.
They're bigger. They're
Yeah.
bigger. Yeah, they're much bigger. The last time I went out to Fargo, there was a guy, Mitch. He might have been like 6'4". He was like a linebacker.
Oh,
you know,
God.
played D1 football. And I worked out with I used to work out with everybody at these
Yeah.
seminars.
Yeah,
You know, I would
Yeah.
do the gauntlet. You know,
right. That's
But this time
that's
I was
frightening.
like, my knees on the mend, so I'm like, you know, I'm gonna kind of avoid that.
Yeah, God. Because I would imagine being out in the Midwest, there would be some big
Yeah.
boys out there. Some meaty
You know what I
guys.
realized? There's one more thing about jiu-jitsu that makes it so special.
Oh yeah, what's that? It's
That
judo.
no one. No. You said I didn't say that.
I know I can say it because nobody cares
Yeah.
what I say. But,
Have you watched the movie The Founder?
the McDonald's one?
Yeah, yeah.
No, I have not watched
But
it.
you know the
Yeah, I know the
story
basic
of Ray
story, yeah.
Kroc,
Yeah.
right? And there's a scene where the guy's like, "Well, you don't even know what makes your company so special, you know?
Oh,
You
yeah.
don't make,
Yeah, I've seen this scene,
you don't make pennies on the dollar of selling a cheeseburger. You make money from the land that
Yeah.
the franchise is built on.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, they're like, "You don't even know what makes your brand so special. It's the name,
Yeah,
McDonald's,
right.
right?" And I have one of those moments. Of course, there's all the things, logistics and sourcing and
Yeah,
food
right.
and bread. But I have one of those moments where, like, this is why jiu-jitsu is more popular than judo.
What's that?
You ready for this one?
Yes, lay it on me, Sensei. Lay it on
The
me.
bird's eye view of BJJ as a sensei makes all the difference in the world.
So what do you mean by this? What is the bird's eye view?
Because I'm teaching a seminar in North Dakota,
Yeah.
and there's 40 people in the room, and everyone's really big and tall. When I'm standing on one side of the mat, I can't see what the opposite side of the mat is doing.
Ah.
They don't see me either.
Right.
Only can I get a glimpse and be like, hey, Aaron, stop doing that shit. You know? That's a real guy, right? But a lot of the times, out of sight, out of mind.
Yep.
You can't see through this crowd. You're not visible. But when you're doing jiu-jitsu in a room and everyone's on the floor and the sensei's standing,
You can see everything.
you could see everything.
Yeah.
That guy's a knee on belly. That guy's going for a knee cut. That guy's El Hiva. That guy can't get out of spider lasso. David Kim stuck on bottom half guard.
Yeah. You know me well. You know me well, you bastard.
Right? And anytime you look up, the sensei's there. They're standing.
Yeah.
You could scan the room as you're doing jit, look around, and you could see the guy that's standing that's teaching.
Or
right?
you're just in a really good knee on belly on top, like JT. Just looking at people, talking to have a, have
just
a
living in neon belly.
That's right.
But I realize what a big factor that is to the contribution of growth of the sport, really.
Simple things. Interesting. I never thought of that, actually.
I never thought of it until I just had that moment.
Right.
And some guy's like, yo, show me Tatoshi. And I'm like, hold on one second. I'm thinking about something.
I got to hold this in my brain. This is very similar to my story about when I knew my competitive swimming career was over. So I was in the lunch line in high school.
Yeah.
And that's the only time you really write up on people, right? Like right next to them. Because I'm not a close talker. I don't like close talking. But in the lunch line, you don't have a choice. And I realized I was looking at the sternums of all my buddies. All the people. And I was looking at their looking here at their chest. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm short.
Yeah, that short, right? How tall are you?
I'm like 5'7", maybe, barely.
Okay.
But but a lot of the guys on the swim team, they're like tall guys. They're like 6-footers type people. And so I was like, oh, this is why I haven't been competing quite as well as I've gotten older. Partially.
I mean, you could overcome it, but you got to be an outlier, like that Chinese sprinter who's 5'8".
Yeah. High frequency. I didn't want to become a distance swimmer, so I'm like, nah. Yeah. Not happening. But that's interesting. That's super interesting.
It is interesting. Yeah, great people out there, really. And I want to see a lot of these gyms succeed. And, one part of the country to another, the dojo is very similar. Yeah. I'll tell you what, man. Sensei Brad from Dakota Budokan, he was like, I want to be uke.
He's a smart guy. He wants to feel it.
But I'm very sparing with my uke throwing when I go to these things. Because majority of the time I'll do maybe one or two throws at best. Right. And then so he was my uke. And every reaction that I would, because when you're teaching something as Tori, you're kind of prepping your uke as well. Like, I'm going to go for that sleeve and the person's going to pull that arm back to expose the lapel. Right? But he was so tuned in. Mm-hmm. And when I'm going for that sleeve, the reaction's perfect. So I go for this thing. And then as he's returning back to my sleeve, and he'll do it exactly the way a good practitioner would. And
made it easy.
I love that. And, I told him, I was like, you have amazing reactions. You actually have amazing judo. I mean, like, actually have, because I didn't expect them to.
Yeah.
But, you go into the middle of nowhere, South Dakota.
Yeah.
Right? Where there's no current judo champions. So you wonder what the level is out there. But the instructor was very, very skilled. And I thought that was tremendous. Because that's not a common thing.
Right.
And now with YouTube, the guys who are going to... And, the local dojo is not very big to support the economics of me going a lot of the times.
Right.
So they market to the other gyms in the area.
Right.
And all these different gyms come. We had guys coming from Minnesota. We had Minnesota guys come to North Dakota. We had Minnesota guys flying down to South Dakota. Mm-hmm. Guys travel 6-7 hours just to come see me. And it's because of the YouTube.
Right.
And because they're watching me on YouTube and they're coming just to see me because of the YouTube, they've watched a lot of my instructionals.
So they know sort of what your philosophy is on certain techniques.
So when I have a 40-person room in the middle of nowhere, sorry guys, it's the middle of nowhere.
I wasn't going to say anything.
But they're used to my jargon, they're used to my language, and we're speaking the same sort of high-level judo speak. Mm-hmm. Even the jiu-jitsu guys.
Yeah.
Right?
So
right versus right, feint pull guard,
Yep.
attack coach, you cut the hand, gain position here, right? You're
Yeah.
dominant position, you're creating an angle by throwing these feints, and they're like, they get it, and they
Yeah.
can immediately do it, which blows my mind, really.
yeah, I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
That would be really nice.
You can do that. You whatever I just said, you could do 100%. I've seen you do it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you're too hard.
Well,
on
that is
yourself.
the. But I will say that's the big difference, right? Because just personally, when you do grip up with people who don't have that experience, it's very clear. It becomes more clear to you. Like before,
Yeah.
you thought you were doing the right things, and then you find out, oh no, these were all wrong. This was all wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it doesn't take goes a little bit goes a long way. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Well, I'm glad you had a great time out there.
And you too can host me for a seminar at your gym. Yeah, exciting times, so do all those things. Patreon, reach out, talk to David too. David's awesome, mid-jitsu.
That's right. I am awesome. Thank you, Shintaro. And
I mean, you've been to a lot of seminars too. You are
embarrassingly
consumer.
so, yes. I have been to quite a
of
few
this
seminars.
stuff.
Yeah. No, and there's always something
Yeah.
to learn from all of them, I think. They're just, I think you just have to be super disciplined, though, to really
Yes.
retain it
Yeah.
and put it into your game, because
Yeah.
you can go to a lot. It's good to broaden your understanding of what's possible, right?
Yeah.
I think, and then there'll always be those bits that you're like, oh, I need to hold on to this because this
Yes.
will fit right into what I'm doing.
How many seminars do you think you've been to?
I don't know.
More than
My
a dozen.
God. Oh, definitely more than a dozen.
Yeah.
There's no.
Do you have
no-
any that you were like, that was one of the best ones?
Oh man, to be honest with you, they've all been pretty good. There's probably only a few where I was just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I could have, stayed home maybe. Not that the guy was bad, but it was just sort of like, and some of it depends on who's in the room, right? Like if you're
Yeah.
in a room full of brand new people, you're not going to teach
Yes.
them the same things that you would if it's like a more
No.
mixed group
Yeah.
of people. And so, Hodger Gracie was great because I just feel like it's just easy to understand. Like his game, it's easy to understand. But he shows you some of the
Yeah.
different details and just like the little things that make the positions work for him. John Thomas, who's another he's on YouTube.
No. He was at Total Form recently.
Oh, was he really? I didn't know
Yeah.
that. He's got a good jiu-jitsu mind and has put out a lot of content as well. But there's been a lot. There's been a ton of people that
Yeah.
I can't even remember now. There've been so many. I clearly haven't made the best use of that time that I spent
Yeah.
in these seminars. But there's always
Yeah,
something.
I think you go to these things, you get exposure to these guys, you ask questions, and then you take one or two each. From I'll never even like Travis Stevens did a seminar once, and then he was showing me this thing about the sleeve, and then I was like, oh, and I still remember to this day when he showed that.
Yeah.
And I remember these bits and pieces that Marty Malloy was like, this is how I do my sode to the Kochi and this and that. And then I'm like, okay, great. And then one or two little things, minor things that she said that she does that I've never heard. And I'm like, whoa. It's like watching these YouTube videos. You're looking up an iPad to buy. Everyone's saying the same nonsense over and over and over.
Yes.
But every 2 or 3 videos, they say something completely like esoteric
Like,
or
you
something
didn't know
that
it.
you're kind of like,
Yeah.
yes.
And you didn't know it. Some other guy might be like, yeah, of course.
No.
That's like how I learned it the first time. And you're like, you just didn't know it. And also, I think it depends on where you are, too. Like sometimes you learn something, but for whatever reason, you're not ready to take that information or it doesn't fit in your brain at that moment. But then a year or two later, you're like, oh, I'm doing that stuff now. And it makes a lot more sense to me because of maybe you were missing this other supplementary or complementary technique or something else, some mindset,
But there's nothing worse than paying money and going to a bad seminar and feeling like you wasted your time.
Yeah.
And I could have stayed home and done anything else but this.
Yeah. Yeah, that is hard. But there's always something. You can always pull something out of,
Very true.
Some people,
Very true.
I think some people use it as a bad justification because sometimes like, hey, if I just pull one thing out of this seminar,
Yeah,
it's worth it. And I'm like,
Worth it.
maybe
Yeah.
not. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it'll be fun. You'll see your buddies. You'll learn some stuff, and it's just fun. I guess I think that's what a lot of hobbyists forget. You have the luxury of not being efficient because it's a hobby.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be fun.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well,
there's some funny guys who do seminars. They'll tell jokes, and you're like, "Oh man, this guy's so funny." This guy should be a stand-up comedian, you know?
yeah. Or even worse, they think they're being funny, and it's just not.
That's
Get
so
back to the
funny.
techniques.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
I hear you. Yeah.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Well, yep. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you, David, for being here. And leave it in the comments. What do you guys think? And
Yeah, what's your
we'll
best
get to it.
seminar been?
Yes, that's a good one.
Take it easy.